In this video, we're going to be talking about how to read files from MATLAB. MATLAB has actually some very advanced file reading utilities, and normally we can read an entire file into a variable in one line of code. Before we get started, I want to show you the file we'll be working with today, which is right here. It's called grades.txt. One extremely important thing is, just like in C++, I need to know where the file is. If you look up here in my MATLAB, I'm in my videos subfolder. The file itself is also in this videos subfolder. As long as they're in the same location, I can just use the file name. If I wanted to figure out putting a file into a different place, I'd have to also give it the path to the file. Normally in this course, we're not going to worry about that much of an advanced file read. The data is generated somewhat randomly, so it doesn't actually correspond to student grades. But as you can see, the numbers are somewhere between 0 and 100, and there were quite a few of them. I actually created about 150 or 154 of these grades. Now, in C++, we had to use a while loop and read it in, check the file, opened everything else. In MATLAB, we actually don't need to do most of that. MATLAB can handle that for us, and we're going to be using a function, called dlmread. DLM stands for delimiter. A delimiter is a special character that separates the individual pieces of data in a file. In this case, our delimiter is actually just a new line character, so I have one piece of data and then a new line and another piece of data. The very common type of delimiter is a comma. So when we get to dealing with larger files, we're going to see a delimiter called a comma-separated values file, which is extremely common, and dlmread can read those as well. Okay, so let's go to MATLAB. And I want to read this into a variable called grades. Now MATLAB is pretty good. It understands that numerical data can be read into an actual numerical variable. I don't need to worry about converting or anything. So let's say I want to read it in as a variable called grades. I say grades equals and then dlmread, sorry. And now when I want to read in a file, I have to give it, as MATLAB is suggesting, a file name. I can give it a number of other things, and in the next video we're going to see what that delimiter thing does, but we're going to avoid it for now. We just want to give it a file name. In MATLAB, unlike other programming languages, strings like file names are denoted using a single quote, not a double quote, so be careful there. I put a single quote, and the file is called grades.txt, and I close my bracket. I'm going to put a semicolon here. We're going to be exploring what grades looks like in the command window. So now I read it, it calls my file, and it's done. So remember, I put a semicolon, we're not seeing anything. Let's take a look at the first 5 elements of grades, and I want to show you how we might do that. We say grades, bracket, like we're accessing something, and then I want from the first element to the 5th. Now if you remember in previous videos, we could create a vector using a set of rules. In this case, I want a vector that starts at 1 in steps of 1 to 5. So I could write 1, 1, 5, and that will give me an appropriate set of indices. So MATLAB is really amazing when it comes to accessing this data. And let's hit enter and let's take a look at what we get. Okay, so the first thing we notice is that I have five numbers as I expected, because I'm going from 1 to 5. The second thing, if you notice, this is a column vector. So it's a vector that has a number of rows. In our case, I'm showing only 5, but grades itself would have 154. It would have all of that data. And it's a column. Now why that is because my file is also set up as a column vector. So MATLAB is really smart, and it will figure out different ways of representing the data based on the file itself. And now if we take a look at the first 5, 81.472 corresponds to the first one, all the way down to the 5th one, 63.236, which we can see here. So MATLAB basically rather faithfully gave me all of the data that I want. Okay, so let's do 3 basic things that I want to show you can do on vectors. It's really quite amazing and very common that we have to do is find the max, the min, and the average or the mean. So if I want the maximum, I just type in max of grades, and I hit enter, and it's going to give me the maximum value, which it turns out is 99.6. If I want the minimum, I type in min of grades, and again it's going to show me the minimum value, which if these were actual grades, that person didn't do very well. And if I want the mean, I type in mean of grades. This is the average, and approximately 50%. So as you can see, with MATLAB, things that in C++ took us quite a bit of work MATLAB has a lot of inbuilt functions to handle those things. We're going to leave it here for now, and in the next video we're going to look at how to read in multidimensional data, and this is where MATLAB absolutely shines because again it's just a single line of code and we can get in all that data all at once in the appropriate dimensions of the data.